Hi, I'm Annie Botticelli, and this is the Storyteller Forecast for Leo for April 2016. Go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com, or click on the link below this video, where you can see my blog that includes astrology blogs and health blogs and inspirational blogs. And while you're there, sign up for my free email newsletter and become part of my community. So what's going on in the month of April? We're leaving the crazy month of March where the eclipses dominated the scene. A very, very astrologically busy month. If you've not listened to that report of mine, you should definitely go back and do that because the information there will carry over for many months to come, not just the month of March. So April is still fair territory for eclipse news to continue rolling in. Very often we'll have a piece of eclipse news come in and then there's follow-up pieces that make the picture more clear. So that information will likely be rolling in April, unless there was just one finite piece of news and then April is spent kind of readjusting to how life is now after that piece of news. Eclipses tend to bring in life-changing circumstances, events, situations, and sometimes those can be changing your life for the better, just wonderful changes that you've been hoping for, better than you can imagine. And sometimes they're terrible changes. They're things that are just not the things that you want. That's just how they are. So by now you'll have a pretty clear picture, if you're going to be very affected by these eclipses, what that picture looks like. People who have the eclipses occur on planets in their chart or on angles in their chart will likely be more affected by the eclipses compared to other people who don't. But that's not the only criteria, but that's definitely true. So you might find you don't have a lot going on in the eclipse time, but you're holding space for other people. But if you look deeper, there will definitely be subtle things that are happening. And the more you pay attention to them, the more you'll see that they're going on. And you can see where that energy is current for you when you listen to the March report. Okay, so we move into April, and all the planets, well, not all the planets, but there are still planets moving into the sign of Aries. The sun is still in Aries. As at the start of the month, Mercury is still in Aries. At the beginning of the month, Venus moves into Aries. And the energy of Aries is kind of like spring fever. So even for my friends down under, this will be your fall, and you'll be getting that zesty kind of refreshing, zippy energy of having the temperature shift, so regardless of where you are on the globe, you have this energy that happens with that seasonal change into the spring or the fall where you kind of get worked up, where it's like exciting and it's refreshing. That's astrologically based as well. And part of it is really only astrology. Sometimes it's weather related, but the energy of movement into Aries makes people want to do something. It makes them excited. It makes them active and busy. So we have that energy carrying over into April, but at the same time, Mars is about to go retrograde April 17th. Mercury is about to go retrograde April 28th. So there's this huge wall of retrograde coming up against this huge force of Aries forward movement, and it's bam, it's colliding, and that's what April is like. So there's a lot of potentials for challenges, discomfort, anger, frustration from the Mars retrograde and even the Mercury retrograde. So I have some recommendations as to how you can keep your zen. A lot of those come from understanding the nature of the transits. So I did a separate video on Mars retrograde. I highly recommend you search on my channel, Annie Botticelli, Mars retrograde, and I did a very comprehensive video. There's also on my website, anniehelpsyou.com, if you go under blog and do search for Mars, I did a written version of a summary of the things to avoid, the things to understand, and the things to do when Mars is in retrograde. Just understanding and following those guidelines is going to take a tremendous amount of pressure from this collision for you. I also recommend that you listen to my Mercury retrograde video because the entire month is covered with Mercury retrograde, even though it doesn't go retrograde till April 28th. So April 28th through May 21st, Mercury is in retrograde, but it starts with the shadow period, which is April 2nd. So listen to that video. The more you know, the more you can smoothly move with the times. For the people who sign up for my free email newsletter, this is my VIP group. I do a write-up each month of the month ahead, the astrology of the month ahead. And I title it something that captures the essence of the month. And I'm calling this month Keeping the Beachy Vibe. So if you imagine that you're on a beach and everything is really chill and you're enjoying yourself, and then you get up to go do some things, and very quickly your mind starts to race with all the things you have to do, and you have to do all this stuff. And then you try to start doing things and things are moving against you, and there's this like stressful scene. So the best way to keep the beachy vibe is to write a list of the things that you think you have to do, then pare them down to a more refined list of the things you think you have to do. And this is specific for Mars retrograde, but it's also helpful for Mercury retrograde, so will be great for April, either way. So then you really ask the question, do I really need to do this? Could I be delegating this out? Do I have to do it now? Like, be raw and honest with yourself with the things you think you have to do. And then when you pare them down to your list of things you really have to do, and you go to implement those, it's going to be so much easier to keep your beachy vibe, because there's less to do and you're not as harried with trying to do it. And then even as you push through the things you really think you have to do, trust the universe's messages to you as you're doing them. If you're catching a lot of flack and it's not working out, maybe you're not supposed to be focusing on that. Maybe there's a wisdom to the timing, So be really in tune with those things. I think it's wonderful to be in tune with those things all the time. But when we have the retrogrades, it's even more important. And when we have this collision of energy like we do in April, of forward-moving forces and backward-moving forces just slamming together, you really have to be discerning and focused on what's happening. One of the most astrologically important days of the year, as far as I'm concerned, is the new moon in Aries. If you've listened to my reports for a while, you know that January 1st as a new year is like, I'm not resonating with that at all. I don't feel like it's a new year. The energy is quiet, it's internal. In some ways, I like the slate cleaning energy. There's, you can utilize it to start something new, and then you can feel some newness there. But you don't have your full gusto for new things until the planets start to move into Aries. And this happens usually starting sometime in March. Excuse me. So the new moon in Aries is the first new moon that occurs after the sun moves into Aries. And this is a time where you can really set your intentions for the time to come. If you've never done a vision board, or if you have done a vision board, know that this day, April 7th, is one of the best days of the year to do a vision board. The other best day is your birthday. These are the two best times of the year, new moon in Aries and birthday, to do a vision board. A vision board is where you either online or actually physically clip out pictures and phrases that embody the essence of what you want to bring in the next year. This is your best time to do that. Now, I wish in a lot of ways that we didn't have Mercury and Mars retrograde forces happening at the same time, because it doesn't carry as much zest, but you're still doing seed planting, and seed planting through using a vision board is still very helpful. Okay, so let's see what's going on. So we've got a tremendous amount of energy for Leos in the 9th house. The 9th house has to do with adventures. It makes me think of, I don't know if you've ever watched Beauty and the Beast. There's a time when Belle is singing about how she wants adventure in the great wide somewhere. And it's one of my favorite parts of the movie. And this energy reminds me of Sagittarius, which is the energy of the 9th house, which is the energy of Leo at this time. There's lots of planets moving into the 9th house for early and middle degree placements of Leo. So like July 23rd through August 2nd is early degree. And then like maybe even August 2nd through, it's hard to tell exactly what the dates, because the middle dates run from around August 3rd to August 12th. So some of you middle and all of you early degree placements have a massive amount of energy in the 9th house. The rest of the middle degree placements and the late degree placements are going to have this energy coming. It's just going to be staggered a little bit. So still pay attention, because if it's not current now, it's coming soon. This is also true when I talk about early, middle, and late. The first 10 degrees of the sign, if you're watching for your rising sign, 0 through 9 degrees, those are the early degree placements. And then the middle degree are 10 through 19, and then the late are 20 through 29. So the adventure, let's talk, that's where I was going. So the 9th house for early and many of you middle degree placements, and this is coming for the rest of you soon. The ninth house rules long distance travel, different countries, different cultures, different languages, interacting with international clients or people in whatever capacity. It rules writing and publishing and getting your work out to an international audience. It rules teaching and learning and all the institutions accredited and not accredited that would be associated with that. Any editing project, anything having to do with religion, philosophy, theology, big topics are all in the ninth house. It's the wide open energy of adventure. And whether it's like armchair warrior style, like you're going on an adventure with a great book or with a great show or with meditation, or it's actually physically going somewhere, but it's the energy of adventure nonetheless. So that's going to be very strong for many of you. And all of you are actually going to have a very strong focus in the eighth house too, but the early and early middle degree placements, most of that is in the ninth house. You just have some smaller pieces in the eighth house. For the short term, all Leos have long-term energy in the eighth house. The eighth house has to do with, and the rest of the middle and late degree placements, you have a very strong focus in the eighth house this month. So the eighth house has to do with, it's the second partnership house. So the seventh house and the eighth house are the two partnership houses. The seventh house has to do with the relationship, the connecting just the two people, one-on-one relationships. Then the eighth house has to do with a person, another person, and their resources merging together. So that could be marriage and then all your resources being merged. Or it could be financial commitments or connections, investors, you investing money, spousal money, family money, inheritances, sweepstakes, loans, debt, credit, all of those things are eighth house realm. There's another huge area of the eighth house that has to do with esoteric things. So astrology is in there from the perspective of the psychology of astrology, deep probing into the mind and what makes something tick is in the eighth house, studying esoteric topics, mysteries, researching. So many Leos are going to find that there's a lot of energy in that space as well. The new moon for the early and some middle degree placements is also going to be in the ninth house. So that new moon, first new moon in the astrological cycle, being in that place of adventure and all the other things I listed for the ninth house is really powerful. The rest of you will have that new moon in the eighth house with all those things that I just listed. So the full moon happens on April 21st or April 22nd, depending on your time zone. And that happens at 2 degrees of Scorpio. Early degree placements are going to experience this in their fourth house. So something coming to fullness, completion, fruition. Full moons are, I always describe it as like when a dog shakes off after they're in the water. You know, they just stop and they shake, 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 shake. The water represents emotion. And at the full moon, we shake, shake, shake our emotions. And sometimes they're happy emotions, and sometimes they're sad emotions, and sometimes they're both. At full moons, I've seen many wonderful coming to fruitions of things anticipated or things worked for, or just surprise nice things that are coming together in a happy emotional way. And that could be true for this full moon in the fourth house for the early degree placements. Or it could mean drama or difficulty or challenge or emotions. And so for the early degree placements, this is going to be centered around home or house and or family, something related to home or family. And for the rest of you, this is going to be, well, actually for most of the middle degree placements, this is going to be in the third house. So something involving your car or other transportation, something involving your communication or your devices, something involving a sibling or a relative, not your parents or kids. The parents or kids could fall into that fourth house one. So if you're on the line there, it could manifest either way. So something coming to fruition, completion there. One of the things that Mars rules is metal. And I talk about this in the Mars retrograde video that I highly recommend that you watch. But since Mars rules metal, it also has rulership for some of the things Mercury has rulership over, which is communication devices, transportation, vehicles, things like that. So Mars retrograde is not a good time to buy anything new involving metal. And all of these devices and vehicles are made of metal. So if you have to buy a new car or a new device, and you haven't already done it in March, which would be a better time, then try to have April 7th as your cutoff date. And there's still some diciness around there too. Just trust your intuition on a day that feels like the energy's flowing well for you around then. If you've got to push it through, it would be better to do it when there's no official retrograde yet. So before April 17th for Mars retrograde, before April 28th for Mercury retrograde. But as you get closer there, the energy is going to be stronger. Okay, so the very late placements for Leo might have that full moon energy actually in the second house. And the second house has to do with your finances and material possessions and streams of income. The reason why this is different for each of you is because the chart looks different depending on what degree placement you have. So often, I'm sure mostly, I don't really know what goes on with other astrology reports, but I'm figuring you don't hear a lot of early, middle, and late degree placements. That's because it's a royal pain in the neck to differentiate it that way, because it's easier to just kind of take the middle road and be general, what would be, for everyone or most of you. But I just can't do it. I have to differentiate that between, because the charts are so drastically different between an early degree placement and a late degree placement. So that's why I take the time to do that. Okay, so those are the main things that are going on in April. I definitely recommend going to watch the Mars retrograde video, watch the Mercury retrograde video, go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com, look at the Mars retrograde blog. While you're there, sign up for my free email newsletter and get all the perks that go along with that. If you're interested in creating successful online business, I will be enrolling as of the time, pretty close to the time I launched this video. I will be enrolling for the next run of that course. And that's super fun and super effective. And definitely look at my subliminal audios too, my Train Your Brain programs, because those can help you build new neuronal pathways to create new external experiences. So I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month. Bye.